What is going on, guys? Today we are back with another video. I am back from Minnesota, back from Leech Lake. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. We're back here in northern Wisconsin for about one day, I think. And today we got myself, we got my dad behind the camera, and good buddy Marty in the boat today. And we're just gonna have a good old-fashioned northern Wisconsin midsummer walleye fishing morning here. And it's kind of windy, kind of overcast. And on these days we get a south wind. I love fishing the weeds for walleyes. They're kind of a lot of times overlooked. A lot of times there's a bunch of fish up there. It's kind of lake to lake. So today we're gonna kind of go all into how you find those fish, how you catch them, and things like that. Also, we have a very exciting announcement. We got a whole bunch of sweatshirts back in stock, and we got some new ones in stock. And we have the new Tom Boley Fishing sweatshirts. We got t-shirts in a bunch of different colors, and women's shirts as well. So absolutely check those out. And I do really appreciate all the clothing purchases. I love it that you guys want to support me, and hopefully I do a good job of kind of giving you guys some feedback and giving you guys some quality hardcore walleye fishing intel. So I really do appreciate it, and that you guys support me and allow me to do what I do every single day. So stay tuned. We're hopefully going to catch a bunch of summer walleyes up in the weeds today, and who knows what we're going to be doing. It's probably going to be a bunch of different techniques. So stay tuned. Let's get it going on. Catch some fish. Fish on the snap jig. Just pulled up on another pot of fish here. We're kind of right up in the weeds, and we're casting out the weed edge. Nice walleye here on the jig and plastic to get things going. That is exactly what we're after. And a lot of times everybody's fishing out deep in the middle of summer, and the reality is you can get up here in these weeds, use your side imaging, use the 360, and a lot of times catch just a ton of walleye right here. There's a super nice one to get things going right there, and that is on that pitching around a 3/8 ounce Kalen's Google Eye, and that hammered nickel like that. Awesome little jig with one of my favorite plastics of all time, the Jerkminnow Jr. That is exactly what we're after right there. Beautiful walleyes. And these are the kind of days where the sky looks like this and you get a nice south wind. These fish a lot of times suck up into the weeds. It can be some of the best fishing. Even though you can get out on a lot of those rock houses, and they might look phenomenal, a lot of times your more bitey fish will be found up in the weeds this time of year. We're kind of running a 1-2 punch of jigs and crawlers and a jig and plastics. We'll kind of see what works best. Right there, inside rod. Just went through a big wad of them. We actually saw, we weren't getting a ton of them jigging, so we kind of swapped over to pulling spinners in the weeds, which is always a good kind of secondary presentation. It seems like it's probably a halfway decent fish. Oh yeah, nice walleye. There he goes.
I waited till they got done with all their questions, and I
Hey, grab that outside rod. I don't know if it's going through weeds or what it's doing, but something's not right.
Yeah, you go from that short one, Marty, to this one's 11 feet. It's got
Weeds.
something on it. I don't think it's a fish, though. Oh yeah, it's a fish.
Oh, it is a fish. There we go. Oh, we just
this one.
Just caught one, or just lost one right at the boat.
There's an eye. Yep.
Yep, there's another one right there. All right, now we're catching them. Slow and steady, reeling them in. Well, like I said, we went from casting to pulling spinners, and right away more action, which is a good thing. And oh, you got a bass. We won't worry too much about that one. But there we go. That was 3 walleyes and a smallmouth so far, and we're only about 100 yards into kind of our first pass with the spinners. And I say this all the time, but some days it's not necessarily about what kind of live bait you're using. Like, they might be eating crawlers, they might not be eating them on a slip bobber or a jig, but pulling spinners or lindy rigging, a lot of times it's how you present that bait, not so much exactly what the bait is that kind of makes a difference for a lot of these real finicky summer walleyes. And if we got to pull spinners to get them, we'll pull spinners all day long to get them. Oh, look at that right there.
Take that other one.
Well, now we're catching fish. And we just let a nice smallmouth go and another walleye. This feels like it's probably a decent fish here. Key whenever you're trolling, slow and steady, even on spinners. Most time on spinners, the spot you lose them is either in the first 5 seconds or right at the boat. You want to net this fish dead? And this appears to be the deal. Like I said, you can see we pretty much got 1 rod left in the water here. And they are 100% eating these. We kind of filmed a similar video the other day, and it's obviously a very effective way to fish. Yep, and there he goes. So this is where you lose them. And a lot of times I'll just kind of back off with the drag right at the boat. Nice one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, real nice walleye. That's just exactly what we're after right there. And then, yep, and this is where they run crazy, where you try not to do too much with them. And then right when he comes up here, try not to pull his head out of the water. You got him? There we go. That's a good healthy fish right there. That is absolutely what we're after. And this is, I can tell you this, sometimes there's days where you end up fishing 4 different ways to catch, you know, 15 fish, and there's other days where you kind of do one thing, and when you fall on the thing that's the right thing to do, it can be pretty obvious. And this is one of those situations where it's pretty obvious what they want and how they want to eat it. And look at that one. That is just a northern Wisconsin stud right there. That is absolutely what we're after. Big thick shoulders, real golden fish. Big contrast from the last lake I was on, Leech Lake, where they're just kind of real pale and almost like emerald colored. Look at that. That is just absolutely what we're after. We'll let that guy go and pull some more spinners up in the weeds. Catch a whole bunch of these summertime weed walleyes. Yeah. All right, let's let that big girl go. There she goes, nice and lively. Back for more. Nice and slow and steady. All right, well, we're hooked up again. That is our way inside rod, our shallowest rod we got. And I absolutely love having one of these 11.5 foot Elliots kind of as one of my outside rods, because it's so nice for spreading baits. And we're running really tight contours, so actually he's just another nice one. Right up in the weeds though. Keep him coming. There we go. What a 15.5, 16 incher right there. Those are a lot of the size fish you can find in the weeds right there. Phenomenal pattern if you're looking to just catch a bunch of eater fish. We're just letting them all go today, but a lot of these eater size fish up in the weeds in the summer is a pretty standard thing to see this time of year. Yep, nice little 15, probably 16 incher up in the weeds. And we're fishing one of these color blades right here. And these little Northwood bait fish imitations, little blue kind of chromy deal. I really like that, and I really like purple. Those two colors seem to work everywhere you're fishing clear water. And I kind of like running the whole crawler on there. Some guys will go like a super slow death, which also works, but when we're fishing around like a lot of perch and panfish and stuff, normally I like to go to the bigger crawler, just in case you know, part of it gets bitten off or the tail gets bitten off, so you're not just left with that little strand of it left on that slow death hook. All right, so midsummer is generally all about adapting to kind of, you know, where those fish are and what you're doing, lake to lake, or even a whole bunch of times on the same lake like we are today. And I've been traveling pretty much everywhere in walleye country the last 2 weeks now, and pretty much the same thing holds true everywhere. You know, there's some lakes that you can just get to them and pull spinners, but a lot of times there's multiple different things going on in a certain lake. So we might start out doing something like casting jigs, you know, which is something that works well this time of year. We might then go to like a slip bobber presentation. We might then go to like a spinner rig presentation. We got all the rods constantly laying around in the boat, and it's always just an enormous disaster in the middle of summer. But that's just kind of the way it is. And, you know, a lot of times how you're going to fish for fish depends on a lot of times how they're set up. So if we have an area where there's a big weed line, and we're just fishing weed lines today, if we have an area where there's a big long weed edge and there's like 2 fish here, 3 fish here, 5 fish here, that's a great situation to do something like pull a spinner through it, where, you know, you're covering water, you're constantly moving down that edge, connecting the dots between those pods of fish. Now when we do slip bobber, let's say you have a big long weed edge and there's 2 points that come off that weed edge, and each of those points, those little points, maybe they're 100 yards apart, has a big glob of walleyes on them. Then it's time to do something that, you know, is a little bit more stationary, a presentation where we might spot lock, pitch back to them, watch the Mega 360, and just make pinpointed casts and keep it in those fish. The jig, that's kind of meshes between the two. You can cover a little bit of water with the jig. You can always also just kind of make the same pinpointed cast over and over and over when you're fishing a jig. So, you know, having all the different tools you can fish, and weed walleyes can set up 100 different ways. So having kind of 3 different tools like that, where you can cover water, kind of make pinpointed casts, or just keep something like a slip bobber in those fish all the time, is kind of a game changer. And definitely the way it seems to, midsummer always seems to fish this way. You got to have a whole bunch of tools in the box to get those fish to eat. And one thing I keep saying over and over on a lot of our summer walleye fishing videos is how you present a live bait. A lot of us are fishing crawlers right now or leeches. That fish will have a different tendency to hit that bait a lot of days, whether it's on a Lindy rig, a slow death hook, a spinner rig, a slip bobber, or a jig. So a lot of times it's kind of trial and error, seeing how those fish want that same basic lure presented to them in a different situation. Got that one. Oh, after switching up to the slip, it's a bass, you think?
Yep.
I don't know. Might be the right kind of fish.
Oh, it's a walleye. It's a walleye, a little walleye.
There we go. A little 16-inch walleye on the slip bobber. And we were just kind of junk fishing today. Started out jigging, caught a fish doing that, ended up pulling spinners. Did pretty well on one spot in particular doing that. And then we just pulled up into a pot of fish here, and kind of a real isolated pocket of them, just right up on a tight weed edge. And figured we'd just throw a slip bobber back because they didn't bite the spinner, and there we go. Another decent walleye right away. And oftentimes summer is a versatile season. You know, spring's generally pretty simple, straightforward. Fish in shallow water. Is that one going down? Oh, perch or something. Normally spring's, you know, pretty simple type of fishing, shallow water, jig fishing. Summer is definitely the time of year to be versatile. Got to switch up where you're fishing, what you're doing, and a lot of times that's kind of the difference between catching just, you know, 1 or 2 and catching a bunch in the summertime. There it goes. Got him.
Be a walleye.
See if you can bring them up and over that. There you go.
No.
Yeah, it is a nice walleye.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
There we go. Well, not fast and furious up here in the weeds, but we are getting it done. The slip bobbers are definitely coming into play. Might be that we got a little bit more wind now, but getting a few. That's the same slip bobber I had tied up there at Leech Lake. There we go. Lots of nice eaters up in the weeds today. He's probably about a 19-incher. Nice, healthy, stocky one. That is exactly what we're after. And anytime you get these kind of conditions out where you got, you know, big south wind coming in, overcast, a lot of times a lot of these weed edges and weed spots really start popping off. And like I said, today we've caught fish on caught one on a jig, caught some on spinners, catching some on slip bobbers. Seems like a little bit of everything. It's just more so fishing the situation. All right, so one question we get a lot on YouTube is people are wondering why the 360 isn't always down. Well, 360 is a phenomenal tool, especially for doing a whole bunch of different things. But every piece of electronics is a tool, and generally you use it a very specific way. You wouldn't be running sonar a whole lot in 3 feet of water if you're walleye fishing, because it's not really applicable up there. Just like, all of our side scanning things, whether that's side imaging or the 360, is generally used in an area where you're looking for fish on a large flat or in shallower water or in a situation where you're not fishing super heavy rock. And 360 for fishing the weeds for walleyes is an absolute game changer. And I'll throw up some screenshots right here. And basically what we're doing is a lot of this fishing is done from a spot lock position. So whether we're pitching slip bobbers or jigs, I can see how those fish are shifting around the back of my boat and kind of make my cast accordingly. So if I'm fishing a big pot of fish, I drop a waypoint on them, I pull around and I spot lock and we catch 2 fish, and all of a sudden we're not catching anything. You look at the 360 and a lot of times those fish will now be over here, or they'll be over there, or they're just gone. As walleye fishermen, we do so much fishing off of a spot lock location, and we end up fishing backwards, that having something like 360 where you can see what's behind you and how those fish are moving around is an absolute game changer. So where's Humminbird 360? Just phenomenal. Anytime you're fishing a large sand flat, like in the spring, like a sand to gravel transition, something like that, absolutely awesome place to use it. It probably excels in depths of like 25 feet and less, and today we're using it a lot in like 13 to 20 feet of water. It's phenomenal, like we said, for fishing the weeds. Anytime you're doing a situation where you'd be using a lot of side imaging, 360 is an absolute game changer. And if you guys are not familiar with how it works, the wheel goes around and it constantly refreshes, every half a second or so. So you're constantly seeing where those fish are, where they're moving, and things like that. So it bridges that gap. You see those fish on the side imaging, you drop a waypoint on them, you pull around, you spot lock, and then you start fishing for them. And now you can look back and see where those fish are and how they're moving and kind of make your cast accordingly. All right, well, that is gonna do it for today's video. Just a quick little morning outing. Caught some walleyes up in the weeds, lost some walleyes up in the weeds. Bite wasn't super good, but fishing in northern Wisconsin and a lot of places middle of summer, very, very challenging walleye fishing. Do not make any video I've ever made seem deceptive as to how insanely good the fishing can be here. In my area, it is very, very difficult to come out and catch a bunch of quality fish. So anytime you do get into some fish, it's always well rewarded. But yeah, I appreciate you guys watching this video. Like I said, by the close, I really, really do appreciate all of you guys kind of supporting me doing what I do every day. And hopefully, like I said, I repay the favor to you guys by giving you some hardcore walleye information. So thank you guys for watching. Like I said, I'm about to go home, clean the boat out, then reload the boat up and go somewhere else for the weekend. So I appreciate you guys watching. If you're not yet, please subscribe. Stay tuned for more content. We'll see you next time.